We're talking today about connecting printers, and we're going to look at printer connections for Windows and Android, particularly Samsung Android, because that's the model of phone I have, and what printer drivers are and how they're a little bit different between Windows and Android for smartphones versus computers. When you have printing, you've got to be able to find the printer. So there's this ability to find the printer between your computer and the printer, or between your phone and your printer. And then when you have the ability to find it, you have to have the ability to communicate with it. Communicating gives you the ability for your computer or your phone to understand the printer and understand its particular settings, its capabilities, its features, and be able to send work to that printer. And the communications takes place two ways. It's not a one-way communication. Printers communicate back to devices to tell, for example, the device, hey, your print job's done, and you don't have to be running the printer anymore. So finding the connection is usually done with a USB cable, or if you have a smartphone, obviously you don't have a cable, so you do it over Wi-Fi, but you can do Wi-Fi on a computer as well. And understanding takes place with the software that you use to communicate with printer, either a printer driver, which we'll talk about, or a printer app. Your printer is a physical device, but it has typically a place for you can plug in a cable, and it has typically a Wi-Fi network capability built into it. So it can connect to Wi-Fi networks, or it can plug into devices with cables. Usually they're USB cables. With a computer and a smartphone, let's take a look at what happens with wired. With wired, it's pretty easy. You get the right cable with the right connector. You can plug it into your laptop, desktop, and the printer. And in most cases, your computer will automatically recognize the printer. With your other connection with a smartphone, there is no such thing as a connector on your smartphone to connect to a printer. So you've got to go wireless. When you go wireless, you're going from your printer to your router in your home, and these are things that have to be in the same network. If your printer and the device you want to print to are not on the same network, it will be difficult to print unless you have more advanced networking features, which typically is what professional IT departments and organizations do. But if your computer can communicate to the same router that the printer is connected to by Wi-Fi, you can print. If you can connect your smartphone to the same router that your printer is connected to, you'll be able to print wirelessly. And this is how most people have their connection set up. But remember, if you can't connect wirelessly, you can always, at least with a computer, Windows or a Mac, plug in a USB cable, and more than likely it'll recognize the printer. However, for it to really recognize the printer and make sure it's working properly, you need something called a printer driver. It's a software program, and it understands all the features of the printer. So a printer driver for a particular model of HP would be different from a printer driver from a different model of HP. A lot of things might be similar, but there'll be some unique characteristics. And printer driver from Epson or Brother or Canon, they'll all be different pieces of software, but they understand the particular features of your particular printer model. Many of them come built in to the operating system, like Windows. Manufacturers supply printer drivers as well that you can download and install and use from the manufacturer. Well, the software connection involves the operating system, whether it's Android or whether it's Windows, and you have a printer that's an external device that is available on a network or through a cable. So the operating system needs to have software called a printer driver that understands that printer and can communicate with the printer. And that driver is usually specific to a particular model of printer. And so it's necessary for that software. And Microsoft provides many printer drivers for many models of printers that are out there. So in many cases, you don't need the manufacturer's software. You can use what comes built in to the Microsoft Windows operating system. However, manufacturers do supply them also, and it communicates with your printer. So the reason the operating system has a printer driver is that you don't have to have printer understanding built into any application. So if you're using your web browser and you want to print out a web page, your operating system knows that if you want to print that web page, to use the printer driver that's connected up to your printer in order to print. Or if you're printing a Word document, or you're printing a Google, Doc page or a spreadsheet or anything, it'll understand that which printer to use. And so software applications just have to connect to the operating system, and the operating system takes care of managing all the print jobs. It makes sure that you have an operating system understanding that you have a printer available. It lets your operating system know that printer is available, that it can be used by any application that you can print from. So when you print, you start your print and you say, I want to print this document, this file, this photo, this picture, whatever. The operating system takes care of sending that task to the printer so you get it output from your printer. So it makes it easy to manage printers, makes it easy to manage printing from almost any task. And this takes place in what's called the background, so that while you're printing, you can go off and do other work. And your operating system manages the print work in the background to make sure it's available. Windows printing works with printer drivers, and it supports both USB connections and Wi-Fi connections. So if you have a computer, most computers come with Wi-Fi. Most printers do now, but there are still maybe some models that don't have Wi-Fi. But as long as you have either a USB connection or Wi-Fi connection, you can connect up from Windows to a printer. And Windows, as part of Microsoft, includes a lot of built-in drivers that support many printers. However, you might install manufacturer software. A lot of manufacturers give you the ability to install their software and their drivers. Windows will work with it perfectly fine. And the manufacturer software may include some extra features and functions and capabilities that you don't need just to print, but they might be nice to have if you want to use certain features of your printer. You download them typically from the manufacturer's website. They usually don't provide you a CD anymore. You might scan a QR code that'll take you to the website. And lots of times the printers walk you through the installation process. But this software supports all the printer features that are available. Now, most of the manufacturers do submit printer drivers to Microsoft so that you've got the ability to get the printer driver from Microsoft when you install the printer. You don't necessarily have to install the manufacturer's software when you install the printer, but it may support some additional features. It's usually required for what are called all-in-one printers, printers that print, that scan, and that function as fax machines also. And to use all these features, the manufacturer's software can make it easier to manage all those different functions, and sometimes you might need it for that type of a printer. Now, Windows Wi-Fi is pretty easy. The printer has to be on the same Wi-Fi network, which usually means at our homes it's connected to the same router. And then you go to devices, or so settings, Bluetooth and devices, and printers and scanners. Now I'm going to show you this on my Windows settings. And then you look for your printer in the list. Your Windows computer will automatically try and detect printers that are on the same network, and it'll show up in a list. And then you click Add Device, and then your printer is then added to your operating system, and your operating system will remember that there's a printer available whenever you're on that Wi-Fi network. So if you go to a friend's house and you're on a different Wi-Fi network, if you ever installed a printer there and you go to that network with your laptop, your computer will recognize that old other printer that you once installed at one point. Now, if you're at your home, it will just show up as what's called an idle device. It won't be functional. Sometimes printers don't automatically get detected. You can go to the manufacturer's website, Epson, HP, Canon, etc. Look for the support or download menu options and download and install the driver software for your version of Windows. Some people might still have Windows 10, but you'll also see if the manufacturer actually is keeping the driver up to date. They eventually drop support for older printers, and so you may not find a driver for your particular model. And lots of times this was a problem. And when people upgraded from Windows XP to Windows Vista, a lot of printers actually just stopped functioning because the manufacturers had not made Windows Vista drivers for their printers. They said, okay, we're not going to make Vista drivers for our old models. We're just going to make them for models we've sold in the past couple of years and everything new. Windows 10 and 11 solved a lot of those compatibility issues. So you'll typically find that a printer that worked on Windows 10 will work on Windows 11 as well. Now, there is a function called a universal printer driver that are made by the manufacturers. HP, Epson, Canon, many of them make what are called universal print drivers, so that if you have an older model of printer and you can't find a driver for it, you can download this universal print driver and it will give you at least some basic functionality. It may not understand all the features of your printer, but it'll give you some basic functionality. And this is how HP and Epson and Canon, etc., support older printer models, as they just give you some basic functions that you can utilize. This is my Windows desktop, and I want to go to settings or printers, and there's a couple of ways you can do that. One of the most common ways is to go down to the start menu, click on the start menu, and then look for the settings gear. You can also type in printers in the search box and it'll bring up the printer's settings. I'm going to go through settings here and it'll bring up settings. And it remembered some of the ones I've used recently, recommended ones I used. But on the left, if you don't see it, you'll look at what are called Bluetooth and devices. The reason it's called Bluetooth and devices, this is a way you connect your Windows computer to peripherals, external devices. So if you have a mouse that is a Bluetooth mouse, you have a printer, you have a set of Bluetooth speakers, you have a different, anything that is a mobile device or a Bluetooth device or an external device will typically connect here. So we're not going to connect a mouse, keyboard, pen, display, or other device. We're going to look at printers and scanners. Now, I do have a printer installed, so it'll show up here in this list. You can see it says add printers and scanners, and you get this little it's called a breadcrumb trail, where you see these little arrows. I'm on printers and scanners. I can go back to Bluetooth anytime. I can find my way back by following this path back and forth. I have an Epson series, an AirPrint. Now, my Epson is AirPrint capable, and interestingly enough, Windows recognized the AirPrint version of that printer. I also have an independent scanner. This is a different piece of hardware. This is a printer that is at one of my son's homes, and it's not active right now because I'm not on their network. And there's also a print to PDF function that's built into Microsoft. So if you just want to print something to a PDF file, it's built in. Now, if I go over here and look at add printer or scanner and I click on add device, it's going to scan my network and see what's available. So it tells me that I have an Epson ET2850 series multifunction printer and scanner, and I can add this device to my listing here. I also have it listed as AirPrint. That's actually, even though it's the same physical printer, it has slightly different functions because it's meant to work with Apple. But so you may see a printer twice. I just click on connect, it connects, and now I have the ability to do it. You saw the little installation. That's downloading maybe installation software from the web if it doesn't have it in the Windows software on your system. So now when I go to print something, I can just select this and it'll be ready for me to print anytime I want to. And it'll say ready when it's ready to go. This Epson model is about a 1.5-year-old model Epson. It's on my Wi-Fi network. It's not connected by a cable. If I had a printer that wasn't working on Wi-Fi and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working, you can always find the cable and plug the cable into your computer. Windows has a feature called plug and play that will typically automatically detect the printer if it recognizes the driver and has the driver capability, and then give you the ability to use it anytime you want to. So that's how you can install and use printers and scanners. A scanner might be a little bit different device, but if it has a multifunction, it sometimes will recognize these things. So use your Bluetooth and devices. Now, because I was just in printers, I can go to my start menu, go to settings, and it'll show recommended settings. It says recent and commonly used settings. Here's printers and scanners, so I don't have to go looking for it. And if I wanted to, I could type in the word printer here, and it'll automatically bring up the printers and scannings option from the list here, and I can select it, and it takes me right into printers and scanners. So it gives you the ability to get to your printer and add a device pretty quickly whenever you want to. Android printing is a little bit different than Windows. It's different than Apple. We had a tech topic just earlier today on Apple. Android printing doesn't use typically printer drivers. It uses a printer tool function called a services, and it's actually an app that's sometimes built in and sometimes has to be added on. So in Android 8.0 and up, there is a print service app that most Android devices include called Mopria. It's built in, it's capable of doing all the print functions you need, and it's part of your Android system typically, and it gives you the ability to print from any application that allows you to print. There are manufacturer print applications that you can download from the Google Play Store or the Samsung Store, and you can install an HP print app, a Canon print app, etc. if you want to. But you need to have something installed. Typically, there is a built-in one, but if you want to, you can install the one for your particular printer if that's something you want to do. Android finds printers in a little bit different way. The Print Services app goes out and searches the network. It's the Print Services app that goes out and automatically looks for printers that are on the same network. And then it also takes care of sending printing to the selected printers. It's called Print Services because it does a little bit more than just a driver. It actually automatically detects the printers and takes care of managing the print functions. Samsung Android is a little bit different. Samsungs include the they include the Samsung Print Service plugin. It's built into the Samsung functions that are added on to Android when you buy a Samsung phone. You get a lot of extra Samsung features that are part of it. It's actually optimized for Samsung printers. I didn't know that Samsung made printers, but they do make some models, and it has the ability for you to communicate with that printer a little easier using the Samsung Print Service. You might need the manufacturer app or the Mopria app, which are available from the Google Play Store in order to print from Android. But I found my Samsung, without any additional software, actually was able to print to my Epson printer without any problem. You're looking at my Android screen here. I don't have to do anything special to print. If I go to Google Drive, and let me find my Google Drive application here, and I open up a document here, a class sign-in sheet, and I want to print this, I can go to the three dots at the top here, and I believe it will bring up a print function. There is a print function down at the bottom. I didn't have to do anything different. I just was able to go and do this. So I'm going to click on print. It says this printer isn't available right now. So I'm not sure why it didn't recognize it. It did earlier today. So I'm going to try it one more time. It's recognizing it now. I can hear it starting. So sometimes it might take a second or two to communicate, but you should be able to hear the printing going on in the background, and it's printing that document out for me. We're going to go to my home screen. I'm going to click on settings. I'm going to just look for printing here. Okay. So there's more connection settings here, and there's printing at the top. If I tap on printing, it says there is a default print service turned on. This is Samsung. So Samsung, as I mentioned, includes a Samsung print function. However, it does give me the ability to download a plugin. And takes me to the Google Play Store, and you can see here's Canon, here's HP, here's Epson, there's even Xerox, there's Lexmark for any type of printer, and then here's this Mopria print service, which is available, and I can download and install that, which gives me the ability to work with any printer, a lot more printers. So usually your Samsung will recognize a more recent model of printer. Some Android devices may need you to install a print service like Mopria in order to work with the printer. But once you install it, your Android device knows that it can print things out using that functionality. So it just depends on your printer, and it depends on the version of Android that you might have available that is going to function properly with that. Whether you're looking at Windows, whether you're looking at Android, whether you're looking at Apple, which we covered earlier, because Apple has a few more different options where they include some software that's built into Apple devices that gives you the ability to make connection. Connecting printers can be helpful when you know how to do them, make it easier for you to print from mobile devices, make it easier to print from your Windows device, and just some different options that are available for you to make sure that you get your printer working and installed properly. And then diagnosing printer problems is another issue. Thank you all for staying and joining me for the tech topic.